Welcome back, everybody. Anyone who joins in, welcome back. We're going to continue on reading now from 2 Kings 9, verse 30, where we got up to earlier. So we're going to just get on, guys. I'm going to continue to read for up to 3 hours, then take a break, and then continue again. Then obviously take a break and keep going. I might even go through the night. I don't know. We'll just see how we get on. I just need to read, guys. Like, to get through this difficult time, I have to continue to read to get through this difficult time. And obviously we have a few books to cover in the Bible still, so it's while it's creating obviously a lot for people to catch up on, it's also just one of these tasks that I've had on my plate for a long while now. And it's one of these things that I'd like to dive in deeper, and so therefore I'd like to continue to read and get ourselves up to a point where we can start to dive into deeper things in the Bible. But first we must complete reading it and make sure that we go through everything so that it's there in our hearts and from there. So catch up in your own time when you can, if you can. And don't stress too much if you're getting a bit behind of where we are in the story, because obviously we're going to go back over some of these chapters and books and things like that. There is a storm in the background at the moment where I'm reading, so you'll probably hear some lightning and thunder and rain and stuff. But hopefully that doesn't interrupt it. So let's continue on, and I'll just start reading. So we're talking about where was the last bit we got up to? Talking about Jehu, all right, and yeah, so we're talking about Jehu. So let's talk about Jehu executes Jezebel. When Jehu came to Jezreel, Jezebel heard of it, and she painted her eyes and adorned her head and looked out the window. Okay, the first thing we see about this is in her character. Okay, Jezebel, what she does, she uses her attraction, she uses obviously her ability to manipulate men. Okay, so she paints her eyes, dolls herself up. Okay, she adorns her head, and she looks out the window. And as Jehu entered the gate, she said, "Is it peace, you Zimri, murderer of your master?" And he lifted up his face to the window and said, Who is on my side? Who? 2 or 3 eunuchs looked out at him. He said, "Throw her down." So they threw her down, and some of her blood splattered on the wall and on the horses, and they trampled on her. Okay, she had to know that he was coming to do this, surely. Some of her blood splattered on the wall and on the horses, and they trampled on her. Then he went in and ate and drank, and he said, "See now to this cursed woman and bury her, or she is a king's daughter." But when they went to bury her, they found no more of her than the skull and feet and the palms of her hands. Okay, so just in the time that he went to eat and drink, okay, Jezebel had been trodden on by horses, trampled, and the dogs that we see had torn it. I think it's the dogs had torn it to pieces as well. So they found no more than the skull and the feet and the palms of her hands. When they came back and told him, he said, "This is the word of the Lord, which spoke by his servant Elijah the Tishbite. In the territory of Jezreel the dogs shall eat the flesh of Jezebel, and the corpse of Jezebel shall be as dung on the face of the field in the territory of Jezreel, so that no one can say, 'This is Jezebel.'" So she had a very quick end there after everything. Jehu slaughters Ahab's descendants. Now Ahab had 70 sons in Samaria, so Jehu wrote letters and sent them to Samaria to the rulers of the city, to the elders and to the guardians of the sons of Ahab, saying, "Now then, as soon as this letter comes to you, seeing your master's son are with you, and there are with you chariots and horses, fortified cities also, and weapons, select the best and fittest of your master's sons, and set him on his father's throne, and fight for your master's house." But they were exceedingly afraid, and said, "Behold, the 2 kings could not stand before him. How can we stand?" So he was over the palace, and he who was over the city, together with the elders and the guardians, sent to Jehu, saying, "We are your servants, and we will do all that you tell us. We will not make anyone king. Do whatever is good in your eyes." Then he wrote them a second letter, saying, "If you are on my side, and if you are ready to obey me, take the heads of your master's sons and come come to me at Jezreel tomorrow at this time. Now the king's sons, 70 persons, were with the great men of the city, who were bringing them up. Okay, so there were 70 of them. And as soon as the letter came to them, they took the king's sons and slaughtered them, 70 persons, and put their heads in baskets and sent them at Jezreel. When the messenger came and told him they had brought the heads of the king's sons, he said, lay them in 2 heaps at the entrance of the gate until the morning. And in the morning, when he went out, he stood and said to all the people, you are innocent. It was I who conspired against my master and killed him. But who struck down all these? As a question. Know then that there shall fall to the earth nothing of the word of the Lord, which the Lord spoke concerning the house of Ahab. For the Lord has done what he said by his servant Elijah. So Jehu struck down all who remained of the house of Ahab in Jezreel, all his great men and his close friends and his priests, until he left none remaining. Then he set out and went to Samaria. On the way, when he was at Beth Eked of the shepherds, Jehu met the relatives of Ahaziah, king of Judah. And he said, who are you? And they answered, we are the relatives of Ahaziah, and we came down to visit the royal princes and the sons of the queen mother. He said, take them alive. And they took them alive and slaughtered them at the pit of Beth Eked, 42 persons, and he spared none of them. Here we see the 42 again. And when he departed from there, he met Jehonadab, the son of Rahab, coming to meet him. And he greeted him and said to him, is your heart true to my heart, as mine is to yours? And Jehonadab answered, it is. Jehu said, if it is, give me your hand. So he gave him his hand, and Jehu took him up with him into the chariot. And he said, come with me and see my zeal for the Lord. So he had him ride in his chariot. And when he came to Samaria, he struck down all who remained to Ahab in Samaria, till he had wiped them out, according to the word of the Lord that he spoke to Elijah. Okay, so he's killed all of these people, all who remained in Ahab's house. Jehu strikes down the prophets of Baal. Then Jehu assembled all the people and said to them, Ahab served Baal a little, but Jehu will serve him much. Okay, so he's deceiving them. Now therefore call to me all the prophets of Baal, all his worshippers and all his priests. Let none be missing, for I have a great sacrifice to offer to Baal. Whoever is missing shall not live. But Jehu did it with cunning, in order to destroy the worshippers of Baal. And Jehu ordered, sanctify a solemn assembly for Baal. So they proclaimed it, and Jehu sent throughout all Israel, and all the worshippers of Baal came, so that there was not a man left who did not come. And they entered the house of Baal, and the house of Baal was filled from one end to the other. He said to him who was in charge of the wardrobe, bring out the vestments for all the worshippers of Baal. So he brought out the vestments for them. And Jehu went into the house of Baal with Jehonadab the son of Rahab, and he said to the worshippers of Baal, search and see that there is no servant of the Lord here among you, but only the worshippers of Baal. Then they went in to offer sacrifices and burnt offerings. Now Jehu had stationed 80 men outside and said, the man who allows any of these whom I give into your hands to escape shall forfeit his life. So as soon as he had made an end of offering the burnt offering, Jehu said to the guard and the officers, go in and strike them down. Let not a man escape. So when they put them to the sword, the guard and the officers cast them out and went into the inner room of the house of Baal. And they brought out the pillar that was in the house of Baal and burned it. And they demolished the pillar of Baal and demolished the house of Baal, and they made it a latrine to this day. Jehu reigns in Israel. Okay, so they basically killed them all and burned it and destroyed the house. And it's a latrine's a toilet, obviously. Jehu reigns in Israel. Thus Jehu wiped out Baal from Israel. But Jehu did not turn aside from the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, which he made Israel to sin. That is the golden calves that were in Bethel and in Dan. And the Lord said to Jehu, because you have done well in carrying out what is right in my eyes, and have done to the house of Ahab according to all that was in my heart, your sons of the fourth generation shall sit on the throne of Israel. But Jehu was not careful to walk in the law of the Lord, the God of Israel, with all his heart. He did not turn from the sins of Jeroboam, which he made Israel to sin. In those days the Lord began to cut off parts of Israel. Hazael defeated them throughout the territory of Israel. From the Jordan eastward, all the land of Gilead, the Gadites and the Reubenites and the Manassites from Arer, which is by the valley of the Arnon, that is, Gilead and Bashan. Now the rest of the acts of Jehu and all that he did, and all his might, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? So Jehu slept with his fathers, and they buried him in Samaria. And Jehoahaz, his son, reigned in his place. The time that Jehu reigned over Israel in Samaria was 28 years. Athaliah reigns in Judah. Now when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she rose and destroyed all the royal family. But Jehosheba, the daughter of King Joram, sister of Ahaziah, took Joash the son of Ahaziah and stole him away from among the king's sons, who were being put to death. And she put him and his nurse in a bedroom. Thus they hid him from Athaliah, so that he was not put to death. And he remained with her 6 years, hidden in the house of the Lord, while Athaliah reigned over the land. Alright, so we see here this, just like Jezebel, Athaliah is vicious, alright, completely vicious, a vicious ruler. And so obviously Jezebel was second in charge, but you know, she was still absolutely vicious and wicked. Joash anointed king in Judah. But in the 7th year, Jehoiada sent and brought the captains of the Karaites and of the guards, and had them come to him in the house of the Lord. And he made a covenant with them, and put them under oath in the house of the Lord. And he showed them the king's son. And he commanded them, This is the thing that you shall do, 1/3 of you, and those who come off duty on the Sabbath and guard the king's house. Another third being at the gate, sir, and a third at the gate behind the guards, shall guard the palace. And the 2 divisions of you, which come on duty in force on the Sabbath, and guard the house of the Lord on behalf of the king, shall surround the king, each with his weapons in his hand. And whoever approaches the ranks is to be put to death. Be with the king when he goes out and when he comes in. The captains did according to all that Jehoiada the priest commanded, and they each brought his men who were to go off duty on the Sabbath, with those who were to come on duty on the Sabbath, and came to Jehoiada the priest. And the priest gave to the captains the spears and shields that had been King David's, which were in the house of the Lord. And the guards stood every man with his weapons in his hand, from the south side of the house to the north side of the house, around the altar and the house on behalf of the king. Then he brought out the king's son, and put the crown on him, and gave the testimony. And they proclaimed him king and anointed him. And they clapped their hands and said, Long live the king. When Athaliah heard the noise of the guard and of the people, she went into the house of the Lord to the people. And when she looked, there was the king standing by the pillar, according to their custom, and the guards and the trumpeters beside the king, and all the people of the land rejoicing and blowing trumpets. And Athaliah tore her clothes and cried, Treason, treason. Then Jehoiada the priest commanded the captains who were set over the army, Bring her out between the ranks, and put to death with the sword anyone who follows her. Well, the priest said, Let her not be put to death in the house of the Lord. So they laid hands on her, and she went through the horses' entrance to the king's house, and there she was put to death. And Jehoiada made a covenant between the Lord and the king and people, that they should be the Lord's people, and also between the king and the people. Okay, Athaliah was wicked. All right, absolute wicked. Where was it? All right. So Jehoiada made a covenant between the Lord and the king and the people, that they should be the Lord's people, and also between the king and the people. Then all the people of the land went to the house of Baal and tore it down. his altars, his images. They broke in pieces, and they killed Matan, the priest of Baal, before the altars. And the priest posted watchmen over the house of the Lord. And he took the captains, the Karaites, the guards, and all the people of the land, and they brought the king down from the house of the Lord, marching through the gate of the guards to the king's house. And he took his seat on the throne of the kings. So all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet after Atalia, had been put to death with the sword at the king's house. Okay, so this day in this modern era, okay, we don't have a Jehu or anyone else who's going to, was it Jehoiada? We don't have anyone else who would, do such a thing. Like, you don't just go around killing people like in this time, for example. But we see that Baal and pagan worship is at an all-time high, and it's in every part of our society, every facet of our society now. We live in a pagan society. We live in a society based upon the Romans and the Greeks, for example, in the Western world. And then we have all of the other countries, such as, like places like South Africa and these other continents, all right? And they have like ancestral worship, where they worship other gods. Okay, then we have obviously different countries like India, and we have obviously the worship to Hindu gods and other things. Then we have obviously, worshipping obviously, reading the Quran and worshipping, who they worship and all that sort of stuff too. So, I mean, we just have on just about every front, there's different beliefs, there's different worship. But it all comes back to all the other religions are all the religions are man-made. All the religions are deceptive. All the religions aren't teaching the truth, and they're all basically deceiving the people. So, people shed blood in the name of their false beliefs, and that's just what they do, right? So, like we see that priest who was stabbed in Australia, for example, regardless of his denomination here, he's been preaching Christ crucified and preaching Jesus, right? And that Jesus is the only way to salvation, and that's the thing. So obviously everybody has, everybody in the church, like there's all these different denominations teaching different things, but the truth is in the word, and that's it. Like, that's the only truth we need. So, people have these different opinions on the word and the different things, and they, obviously get involved in different stuff. Obviously, Catholics worship pagan. It's a pagan religion. They worship man. They idolize man. Okay, and they do all sorts of other things. They believe that, you have to confess or be forgiven of sin by a man, so they deny Christ. Okay, there's 2 billion Catholics on this planet. I don't have any time for them. Okay, all I want is for them to repent, because they do worship man. And when I say I don't have any time for them, is that you can try and explain your way out of it, but the truth is that the Catholic religion, it teaches idolatry, it teaches worship of man, it teaches opposite of what the Bible teaches, right? They don't preach Christ crucified. They don't preach what was achieved on the cross by the atonement of the blood through the forgiveness of our sins through the atonement of the blood, through what Jesus did for us on the cross and sacrificed his life for us. Okay, they don't teach that. They teach other stuff, right? They talk about the cross, but then they talk about how you must go and do penance and all these other nonsense to man and confess your sins to man. Okay, and they also, the head of their church, they have their own structure. The head of their church worships a serpent. Okay, the Pope is a devil. All right, the Pope is a devil. He's an absolute devil, and he worships a serpent. And so therefore he can contend with God. Pray that the Pope repents of his wickedness and he comes back to God. So I have no time for the Catholics. I don't care. I get people on here arguing and saying this and that, but no, right? It's a false religion. It's a false doctrine. Okay, it doesn't belong in the faith at all, right? It's not following Jesus. It's following man. Okay, so 2 billion people, a quarter of the population, follow them. Okay, so It's crazy, right? It's crazy that people can't read their Bibles and see this in 5 minutes, that everything that they're teaching, the worship of Mary, the worship of all these things, that it will send people to hell. Okay, so not going to support that on this channel. And so yeah, guys, like, we live in a time of pagan society. We're surrounded by it. Okay, many schools in Australia are Catholic schools, and they send, they teach that doctrine in the schools as well. So I don't have any time for it. All right, so here we see Jehoash reigns in Judah. Jehoash was 7 years old when he began to reign. In the 7th year of Jehu, Jehoash began to reign, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zibiah of Beersheba, and Jehoash did what was right in the eyes of the Lord all his days, because Jehoiada the priest instructed him. Nevertheless, the high places were not taken away. The people continued to sacrifice and make offerings on the high places. Now, just to add to that, about the Catholic Church, we're called to love one another. We're called to love our neighbor. Okay, so, for the people who are deceived by it, obviously, it's a sad thing, and we pray and remind them that Jesus loves you, and that, if you come to him in repentance, for following that, if that's what you're following, and you have faith in him and you believe in him and put your trust in him, that you will be saved, and that you don't need doctrines of man. You don't need to cover yourself in crosses. You don't need to do all these things, right? You don't even need to wear a cross or a trinket or an idol. You don't need to have any of that. Okay, if you so choose to have it as a symbol to remind yourself of Christ, then that's up to you. But we're not to have things of metal and wood and carved things, and regardless, as long as it's not taking away from your relationship with Jesus, from God, right, then that's okay. But if it's taking away from that, or you're putting it up on a pedestal, or you're having some sort of hidden power in it, okay, in this thing, right, then get away from it, stay away from it. But yeah, we're called to love all people, right? We're called to bless our enemies, and we're called to love all, right? And so, it doesn't matter whether, even like the murderers of the world and the rainbow people, right? And those people that are deceived, okay, we pray that they come into the love of Jesus. Right? We pray that they accept him in their hearts, and they come humbly in repentance to him, and promise to change their ways, and walk in his way, and follow him, because that's what it's about, right? That's all it's about. So there's nothing personal about anybody who's made choices of other religion, but it's just according to the word. Okay, any other religion is not of God, and anything not of God, okay, is at enmity with God. So is at opposites with God. So any of these things are at opposites with God. Any of these things is a dangerous place to be. So, we can't teach that is okay and you can just get away with it. No, right? The word says you can't do that. So we have to be truthful here. But we also have to understand too, we are dealing with spirits, and we are dealing with principalities, and we're not dealing with just people. And so therefore people are misled into following these things and these doctrines, right? So we're to be of love, and we're to be of peace, and we're not to be attacking other people, of course, but we must also understand that this is life and death. And when you see 2 billion people, okay, and growing, deceived by the Catholic Church, it's hard not to get a little bit fired up. It's hard not to be a bit upset about it, because that's an awful lot of people, right, who by definition of the word, okay, are setting themselves up for the outer darkness. By definition of what it says in the Bible, 2 billion people are headed straight to hell, and there's a bunch of people promoting it and taking them there. And the sad thing is, a lot of good people get caught up in this. A lot of good people go to these places, right, and they get caught up in it, and they don't even know, because they don't read the word, they don't study the word. They just, they trust in man to deliver them their daily bread, and they trust in man in order to, that they're going to come into that understanding. So guys, we live in a pagan society. We live in a society surrounded by serpents, okay, and we have to be truthful here, and we have to be honest with the situation. So Okay, so let's go back. I'll read this again. In the 7th year of Jehu, Joash began to reign, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zibiah of Beersheba, and Jehoash did what was right in the eyes of the Lord all his days, because Jehoiada the priest instructed him. Okay, we see Jehoiada was the one who was behind getting rid of Atalia, which, he was a righteous man. Nevertheless, the high places were not taken away. Okay, so, what we see here, even going back to Asa, or King Asa, did what was right by the Lord, but he didn't remove the high places. He didn't stop this Baal worship. Okay, he didn't destroy them like we see with Jehu, and like what we saw with Elijah as well, where he killed the Baal prophets when they lost the contest. So, this is a big thing. The king can't allow this to be happening while it's happening. So, while he's reigning, right? The high places were not taken away. The people continued to sacrifice and make offerings on the high places. Jehoash repairs the temple. Jehoash said to the priests, "All the money of the holy things that is brought into the house of the Lord, the money for which each man is assessed, the money from the assessment of persons, and the money that a man's heart prompts him to bring into the house of the Lord, let the priests take each from his donor, and let them repair the house wherever any needs of repairs is discovered." Okay, one thing about the Book of Kings, or the two books that we learn, we get to study the king's behaviors. So we get to study what it is to follow God in such a complex weave of leading people. Okay, so in leading people and then following God, we see that the kings that rule, right? Like we see David, for example, right? David had a heart turned towards God. We see that, and David loved God, and David was devastated when he realized, when Samuel told David about the man who took the lamb from the man who his only possession was the lamb, where he took the lamb, right, for his own and sacrificed him. Okay, that's when he heard that story being told to Samuel, he was outraged. He's like, who would dare do such a thing? Let that man be cursed, or let that man be killed. Okay, and when he realized, Samuel said, it's you. The story's about you. All right, and what you've done with Bathsheba. And so when David actually realizes, you can see the penny drop. You can see the moment where his heart breaks when he realizes what he's done. Okay, and then we get this incredible psalm of Psalm 51, which we see. Let's open it up and have a read, right? But this is all relevant because, as in any sort of leadership thing, we need to understand this. Okay, creating me a clean heart, O God. So let's read this, right? To the choir master, a psalm of David, when Nathan the prophet went to him after he'd gone into Bathsheba, or Nathan told him, sorry, not Samuel. Have mercy on me, O God, according to your steadfast love, according to your abundant mercy. Blot out my transgressions. Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity and cleanse me from my sin. For I know my transgressions and my sin is ever before me. Against you only I have sinned and done what is evil in your sight, so that you may be justified in your words and blameless in your judgment. Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. Behold, you delight in truth in the inward being, and you teach me wisdom in the secret heart. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. Let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones that you have broken rejoice. Hide your face from my sins, and blot out all my iniquities. Creating me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Cast me not away from your presence, and take not your Holy Spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and uphold me with a willing spirit. Okay, so you can see the Holy Spirit. Take not it away. And I will teach transgressors your ways, and sinners will return to you. Deliver me from blood guiltness, O Lord, O God of my salvation, and my tongue will sing aloud of your righteousness. O Lord, open my lips, and my mouth will declare your praise. For you will not delight in sacrifice, or I will give it. You will not be pleased with the burnt offering. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O God, you will not despise. Do good to Zion in your good pleasure. Build up the walls of Jerusalem. then will you delight in right sacrifices, in burnt offerings and whole burnt offerings? The bulls will be offered on your altar. Okay, there's a broken heart of David in this writing, okay, and an understanding of his guilt ever before him. Okay, this is a repentant psalm. Okay, this is him. You know, he knows what he's done is wrong. Okay, but what we see with these other kings is that they persist in their own rule. They aim to please the people and not God, right? They aim to please the people and not God. That's the key point. We can't aim to please the people. We have to aim to please God. Okay, so we can't aim to people please. And the thing is that by not removing these high places, you're just allowing it to fester and to continue. So what we see from here is important to understand is that, as we see in the millennial reign, the righteousness will rule. Okay, as we read, if we start reading about the princes and different things, right? As we look at the millennial reign, we see that Jesus will be seated on the throne. Okay, there will be those that will rule and reign with him, but under him, okay, as his sons, okay. And what are sons? Sons are princes, okay. The sons are princes, and so those sons that rule on the throne or sit on the throne, in those various areas as part of his new government, okay, they're going to have to rule and reign under God. They're going to have to rule and reign with God, fully, committed to that. And so there's no room there for going out on their own thing. Okay, the only way that things will work is if they're ruled under God. And so Jesus will, as he's already taken the throne, he will rule, right, during that time. He'll rule during that time and onwards. And so we're going to see what a kingdom of righteousness actually looks like, which we haven't seen. All right, we haven't seen that. We got a glimpse of a little bit of it through David, but we haven't truly seen that for a long period of time. What's happened? Even David fell short. Okay, but he who sits on the throne will not fall short. He who sits on the throne will never be wrong. He who sits on the throne will never lie. Will never, do any of those things. So, thus again, those that will rule and reign with him cannot also do that either. So we're going to see this incredible thing that comes to pass in the future. And so studying these kings is important because we learn what a good leader is. We learn where people fell short. We see the common pattern and failure of man is to please man and to, build up the high places. Solomon built those high places to please his wives. Okay, so there's even the wisest man that ever sat, as a man, whoever was given that amount of wisdom, okay, even he fell short in that department. Even he did something foolish that wasn't wise. Okay, when he married those foreign women, okay, those strange women with strange ideas, and that's what was his downfall. So we learn a lot from the study of the kings, and we learn a lot about ourselves, and we learn a lot about righteousness. And about how, God demands of his people, right, that they just follow and keep, just obey what he sets out to, his law and his commandments. We also see, obviously, this is during a time when the curse of the law, no one could keep his law, no one could fully surrender and submit to it. Only Jesus was able to fulfill the law and redeem man from the curse of the law. So what we see is, we get that confirmation here that these short rulings of 20, 30 years that we see, they're decent rulings, but, no one's able to fully, get there. So let's continue. We see here, I'll start again. Jehoash repairs the temple. Jehoash said to the priests, all the money of the holy things that is brought into the house of the Lord, the money for which each man is assessed, the money from the assessment of persons, and the money that a man's heart prompts him to bring into the house of the Lord, let the priests take each from his donor, and let them repair the house wherever any needs of repair is discovered. But by the 23rd year of King Jehoash, the priests have made no repairs on the house. Therefore King Jehoash summoned Jehoiada, the priest, and the other priests, and said to them, why are you not repairing the house? Now therefore take no more money from your donors, but hand it over for the repair of the house. So the priests agreed that they should take no more money from the people, and that they should not repair the house. Then Jehoiada the priest took a chest and bored a hole in the lid of it, and set it beside the altar on the right side as one entered the house of the Lord. And the priests who guarded the threshold put in it all the money that was brought into the house of the Lord. And whenever they saw that there was much money in the chest, the king's secretary and the high priest came up, and they bagged and counted the money that was found in the house of the Lord. Then they would give the money that was weighed out into the hands of the workmen who had the oversight of the house of the Lord. And they paid it out to the carpenters and the builders who worked on the house of the Lord. Okay, so they raised money from the public in order to continue to build the house of the Lord. And to the masons and the stone cutters, as well as to buy timber and quarried stone for making repairs on the house of the Lord, and for any outlay for the repairs of the house. But there were not made for the house of the Lord basins of silver, snuffers, bowls, trumpets, or any vessels of gold or of silver from the money that was brought into the house of the Lord, for that was given to the workmen who were repairing the house of the Lord with it. And they did not ask for an accounting from the men into whose hand they delivered the money to pay out to the workmen, for they dealt honestly. Okay, so there was this trust there. Trust that they were doing the right thing. The money from the guilt offerings and the money from the sin offerings was not brought into the house of the Lord. It belonged to the priests. Okay, so there's a different section of money here. That was like the tithing to the priests. At the time, Hazael, king of Syria, went up and fought against Gath and took it. But when Hazael set his face to go up against Jerusalem, Jehoash, king of Judah, took all the sacred gifts that Jehoshaphat and Jehoram and Ahaziah, his fathers, the king of Judah, had dedicated, and his own sacred gifts, and all the gold that was found in the treasuries of the house of the Lord and of the king's house, and he sent these to Hazael, king of Syria. Then Hazael went away from Jerusalem. The death of Joash. Now the rest of the acts of Joash and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? His servants arose and made a conspiracy and struck down Joash in the house of Millo, on the way that goes down to Silla. It was Josachar the son of Shimeath and Jehozabad the son of Shomer, his servants, who struck him down, so that he died. And they buried him with his fathers in the city of David, and Amaziah his son reigned in his place. Jehoaz reigns in Israel. In the 23rd year of Jehoaz the son of Ahaziah king of Judah, Jehoaz the son of Jehu began to reign over Israel and Samaria. Let me just recount this for a minute. So Joash, when he dies, his servants arose, made a conspiracy, and struck down Joash. Okay, so we see here the son of, let's start again. In the 23rd year of Joash, the son of Ahaziah, king of Judah, Jehoaz, the son of Jehu, that's it, began to reign over Israel and Samaria, and he reigned 17 years. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and followed the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, which he made Israel to sin. He did not depart from them. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he gave them continually into the hand of Hazael king of Syria, and into the hand of Ben-Hadad the son of Hazael. Then Jehoaz sought the favour of the Lord, and the Lord listened to him. For he saw the oppression of Israel, how the king of Syria oppressed them. Therefore the Lord gave Israel a saviour, so that they escaped from the hand of the Syrians, and the people of Israel lived in their homes as formerly. Nevertheless they did not depart from the sins of the house of Jeroboam, which he made Israel to sin, but walked in them. And the Asherah also remained in Samaria. For there was not left to Jehoaz an army of more than 50 horsemen, and 10 chariots, and 10,000 footmen. For the king of Syria had destroyed them, and made them like the dust at threshing. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoaz, and all that he did, and his might, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? So we're going to read about that next. So Jehoaz slept with his fathers, and they buried him in Samaria, and Joash his son reigned in his place. I'm just going to quickly check how big 2 Kings is, and Chronicles as well. I'm just going to have a look quickly, and then we'll continue on. Okay, so 2 Kings goes up to 25. First Chronicles and Second Chronicles, so 29 and 36. Okay, so they're decent sizes. We'll be in them for a while. Jehoash reigns in Israel. In 37 year of Jehoash, king of Judah, Jehoash the son of Jehoaz began to reign over Israel in Samaria, and he reigned 16 years. He also did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not depart from all the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, which he made Israel to sin, but he walked in them. Now the rest of the acts of Joash and all that he did, and the might with which he fought against Amaziah king of Judah, are they not written in the book of Chronicles of the kings of Israel? So Joash slept with his fathers, and Jeroboam sat on his throne, and Joash was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel. So Joash dies. The death of Elisha. Now when Elisha had fallen sick with the illness of which he was about to die, Joash king of Israel went down to him and wept before him, crying, my father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen. And Elisha said to him, take a bow and arrows. So he took a bow and arrows. Then he said to the king of Israel, draw the bow. And he drew it. And Elisha laid his hands on the king's hands. And he said, open the window eastward. And he opened it. And Elisha said, shoot. And he shot, and he said, the Lord's arrow of victory, the arrow of victory over Syria. For you shall fight the Syrians in Aphek until you have made an end of them. And he said, take the arrows, and he took them. And he said to the king of Israel, strike the ground with them. And he struck 3 times, which we see signifies, Elijah, what Elijah does, this number of completion, relies on the child 3 times, and stopped. Then the man of God was angry with him and said, you should have struck 5 or 6 times. Then you would have struck down Syria until you had made an end of it. But now you will strike down Syria only 3 times. So Elisha died, and they buried him. Now bands of Moabites used to invade the land in the spring of the year. And as a man was being buried, behold, a marauding band was seen, and the man was thrown into the grave of Elisha. And as soon as the man touched the bones of Elisha, he revived and stood on his feet. Okay, so we see, if this was to happen, we see that, this power of God had just gone right through everything of him, of Elisha. Now Hazael, king of Syria, oppressed Israel all the days of Jehoaz. But the Lord was gracious to them and had compassion on them. And he turned toward them because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and would not destroy them, nor has he cast them from his presence until now. When Hazael king of Syria died, Ben-Hadad his son became king in his place. Then Jehoash the son of Jehoaz took again from Ben-Hadad. So one important point to note is, see how Elisha wasn't taken away? Right? Elisha had to die. Right? He died from an illness. Whereas Elijah the first, he was taken away. So when we talk about that later, with the 2 witnesses, it'll make more sense. And Jehoash the son of Jehoaz took again from Ben-Hadad the son of Hazael the cities that he had taken from Jehoaz his father in war. 3 times Joash defeated him and recovered the cities of Israel. Amaziah reigns in Judah. In the 2nd year of Joash, the son of Jehoaz, king of Israel, Amaziah the son of Joash, king of Judah, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jehoadin of Jerusalem, and he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, yet not like David his father. He did in all things as Joash his father had done, but the high places were not removed. The people still sacrificed and made offerings on the high places, and as soon as the royal power was firmly in his hand, he struck down his servants who had struck down the king his father. But he did not put to death the children of those murderers, according to what is written in the book of the law of Moses, where the Lord commanded, fathers shall not be put to death because of their children, nor children be put to death because of their fathers, but each shall die for his own sin. Okay, so we're individually accountable for our own sin. He struck down 10,000 Edomites in the valley of Salt and took Selah by storm. So we see Selah like that. That's written in the Psalm, Selah. Took Selah by storm and called it Joktheel, which is its name to this day. Then Amaziah sent messengers to Joash the son of Jehoaz, son of Jehu, king of Israel, saying, come, let us look one another in the face. And Jehoash king of Israel sent word to Amaziah king of Judah, a thistle on Lebanon sent to a cedar on Lebanon, saying, give your daughter to my son for a wife. And a wild beast of Lebanon passed by and trampled down the thistle. You have indeed struck down Edom, and all your heart has lifted you up. Be content with your glory and stay at home. But why should you provoke trouble, so that you fall, and Judah with you? Just one sec, guys, won't be a sec. Alright. You have indeed struck down Edom, and your heart has lifted you up. Be content with your glory and stay at home. But why should you provoke trouble, so that you fall, and you and Judah with you? But Amaziah would not listen. So Jehoash king of Israel went up, and he and Amaziah king of Judah faced one another in battle at Beth-shemesh, which belongs to Judah. And Judah was defeated by Israel, and every man fled to his home. And Jehoash king of Israel captured Amaziah king of Judah, the son of Jehoash, son of Ahaziah, at Beth-shemesh, and came to Jerusalem, and broke down the wall of Jerusalem for 400 cubits, from the Ephraim gate to the corner gate. And he seized all the gold and silver, and all the vessels that were found in the house of the Lord, and in the treasuries of the king's house, also hostages, and he returned to Samaria. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoash that he did, and his might, and how he fought with Amaziah king of Judah, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? And Jehoash slept with his fathers, and was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel, and Jeroboam his son reigned in his place. Amaziah the son of Joash king of Judah lived 15 years after the death of Joash son of Jehoaz king of Israel. Now the rest of the deeds of Amaziah, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the king of Judah? And they made a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. But they sent after him to Lachish, and put him to death there. And they brought him on horses, and he was buried in Jerusalem with his fathers in the city of David. And all the people of Judah took Azariah, who was 16 years old, and made him king instead of his father Amaziah. He built Elath and restored it to Judah, after the king slept with his fathers. Jeroboam too reigns in Israel. In the 15th year of Amaziah, the son of Joash king of Judah, Jeroboam the son of Joash king of Israel began to reign in Samaria, and he reigned 41 years. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not depart from all the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, which he made Israel to sin. He restored the border of Israel from Lebo Hamath as far as the sea of the Arabah, according to the word of the Lord, the God of Israel, which he spoke by his servant, Jonah the son of Amittai, the prophet, who was from Gath Hepher. For the Lord saw the affliction of Israel was very bitter. Excuse me, guys. Well, there was none left, bond or free, and there was none left to help Israel. But the Lord had not said that he would blot out the name of Israel from under heaven, so he saved them by the hand of Jeroboam the son of Joash. Now the rest of the acts of Jeroboam, and all that he did, and his might, how he fought, and how he restored Damascus and Hamath to Judith in Israel, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? And Jeroboam slept with his fathers, the kings of Israel, and Zechariah his son reigned in his place. Azariah reigns in Judah. In the 27th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel, Azariah the son of Amaziah, king of Judah, began to reign. He was 16 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jechaliah of Jerusalem, and he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that his father Amaziah had done. Nevertheless, the high places were not taken away. The people still sacrificed and made offerings on the high places. And the Lord touched the king, so that he was a leper to the day of his death. And he lived in a separate house. And Jotham the king's son was over the household, governing the people of the land. Now the rest of the acts of Azariah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the king of Judah? And Azariah slept with his fathers, and they buried him with his fathers in the city of David. And Jotham his son reigned in his place. Zechariah reigns in Israel. In the 38th year of Azariah king of Judah, Zechariah the son of Jeroboam reigned over Israel and Samaria 6 months. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, as his father had done. He did not depart from the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, which he made Israel to sin. Shallum the son of Jabesh conspired against him and struck him down at Iblim and put him to death and reigned in his place. Now the rest of the deeds of Zechariah, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. This was the promise of the Lord that he gave to Jehu. Your sons shall sit on the throne of Israel to the 4th generation. And so it came to pass. So we're going through now a whole bunch of these different rulers. Shallum reigns in Israel. Shallum the son of Jabesh began to reign in the 39th year of Uzziah, king of Judah, and he reigned 1 month in Samaria. Then Menahem the son of Gadi came up from Tirzah and came to Samaria, and he struck down Shallum the son of Jabesh in Samaria and put him to death and reigned in his place. Now the rest of the deeds of Shallum and the conspiracy that he made, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. At that time Menahem sacked Tipsah and all who were in it and its territory from Tirzah on, because they did not open it to him. Therefore he sacked it, and he ripped open all the women in it who were pregnant. Menahem reigns in Israel. In the 39th year of Azariah king of Judah, Menahem the son of Gadi began to reign over Israel, and he reigned 10 years in Samaria. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not depart all his days from all the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, which he made Israel to sin. Pul the king of Assyria came against the land, and Menahem gave Pul 1,000 talents of silver, that he might help him to confirm his hold on the royal power. Menahem exacted the money from Israel, that is, from all the wealthy men, 50 shekels of silver from every man, to give to the king of Assyria. So the king of Assyria turned back and did not stay there in the land. Now the rest of the deeds of Menahem and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? And Menahem slept with his fathers, and Pekahiah and his son reigned in his place. Pekahiah reigns in Israel. In the 50th year of Azariah king of Judah, the sons of Menahem began to reign over Israel in Samaria, and he reigned 2 years. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, which he made Israel to sin. And Pekah the son of Remaliah, his captain, conspired against him with 50 men of the people of Gilead, and struck him down in Samaria, in the citadel of the king's house with Argob and Ariah. He put him to death and reigned in his place. Now the rest of the deeds of Pekahiah and all that he did, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. Pekah reigns in Israel. In the 52nd year of Azariah king of Judah, Pekah the son of Remaliah began to reign over Israel and Samaria, and he reigned 20 years. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not depart from the sins of Jeroboam the sons of Nebat, which he made Israel to sin. In the days of Pekah king of Israel, Tiglath-Pileser king of Assyria came and captured Ijon, Abel Beth Makkah, Genoth Kadesh, Hazor Gilead, and Galilee, all the land of Naphtali, and he carried the people captive to Syria. Then Hoshea the son of Elah made a conspiracy against Pekah, the son of Remaliah, and struck him down and put him to death and reigned in his place, in the 20th year of Jotham the son of Uzziah. Now the rest of the acts of Pekah and all that he did, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel. Jotham reigns in Judah. In the 2nd year of Pekah the son of Remaliah king of Israel, Jotham the son of Uzziah king of Judah began to reign. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. And he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that his father Uzziah had done. Nevertheless, the high places were not removed. The people still sacrificed and made offerings on the high places. He built the upper gate of the house of the Lord. Now the rest of the acts of Jotham and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? In those days the Lord began to send Rezin, the king of Syria, and Pekah the son of Remaliah against Judah. Jotham slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, his father, and Ahaz his son reigned in his place. Ahaz reigns in Judah. In the 17th year of Pekah the son of Remaliah, Ahaz the son of Jotham king of Judah began to reign. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And he did not what was right in the eyes of the Lord his God, and as his father David had done. But he walked in the way of the kings of Israel. He even burned his son as an offering, which is horrendous, according to the despicable practices of the nations whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel. And he sacrificed and made offerings on the high places and on the hills and under every green tree. Then Rezin, king of Syria, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel, came up to wage war on Jerusalem, and they besieged Ahaz, but could not conquer him. At that time Rezin, the king of Syria, recovered Elath of Syria, and drove the men of Judah from Elath, and the Edomites came to Elath, where they dwell to this day. So Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, saying, I am your servant and your son. Come up and rescue me from the hand of the king of Assyria, and from the hand of the king of Israel, who are attacking me. Ahaz also took silver and gold that was found in the house of the Lord and in the treasures of the king's house, and sent a present to the king of Assyria. And the king of Assyria listened to him. The king of Assyria marched up against Damascus, and took it, carrying its people captive to Kir, and he killed Rezin. When King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, he saw the altar that was at Damascus. And King Ahaz sent to Uriah the priest a model of the altar, and its pattern, exact in all its details. And Uriah the priest built the altar in accordance with all that the king Ahaz had sent from Damascus. So Uriah the priest made it before King Ahaz arrived from Damascus. And when the king came from Damascus, the king viewed the altar. Then the king drew near to the altar and went up on it, and burned his burnt offering and his grain offering, and poured his drink offering, and threw the blood of his peace offering on the altar. And the bronze altar that was before the Lord he removed from the front of the house, from the place between his altar and the house of the Lord, and put it on the north side of his altar. And King Ahaz commanded Uriah the priest, saying, On the great altar burn the morning burnt offering, and the evening grain offering, and the king's burnt offering, and his grain offering, with the burnt offering of all the people of the land, and the grain offering, and the drink offering. And throw on it all the blood of the burnt offering, and all the blood of the sacrifice. But the bronze altar shall be for me to inquire by. Uriah the priest did all this as King Ahaz commanded. And King Ahaz cut off the frames of the stands and removed the basin from them, and he took down the sea from off the bronze oxen, so the brazen sea that were under it, and put it on a stone pedestal. And they covered way for the Sabbath that had been built inside the house, and the outer entrance for the king he caused to go around the house of the Lord, because of the king of Assyria. Now the rest of the acts of Ahaz that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the king of Judah? And Ahaz slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, and Hezekiah his son reigned in his place. Hoshea reigns in Israel. In the 12th year of Ahaz king of Judah, Hoshea the son of Elah began to reign in Samaria over Israel, and he reigned 9 years. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, yet not as the kings of Israel who were before him. Against him came up Shalmaneser king of Assyria, and Hoshea became his vassal and paid him tribute. But the king of Assyria found treachery in Hoshea, for he had sent messengers too, so king of Egypt, and offered no tribute to the king of Assyria, as he had done year by year. Therefore the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in prison. Then the king of Assyria invaded all the land and came to Samaria, and for 3 years he besieged it. The fall of Israel. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria captured Samaria and carried all the Israelites away to Assyria, and placed them in Halah and on the Habor, the river of Goshen, and in the cities of the Medes. Okay, so the 9th year of Hosea, this is where Assyria came in and took Samaria and carried the Israelites away. So that's from the north. We see that on the east was the Babylonians, and the Babylonians took away Judah, Jerusalem. So exile because of idolatry. And this occurred because the people of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, who had brought them up out of the land of Egypt from under the hand of Pharaoh the king of Egypt, and had feared other gods and walked in the customs of the nations So this is the reason they were carried away, whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel. Right, so the Israelites, they had so much warning, they had so much indication this was going to happen. They were told time and time and time and time again, that if they followed after other gods and walked in idolatry and those things, that this would happen. And it got so bad that it finally did happen. So they feared. So let's start again. And this occurred, the exile, because the people of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, who had brought them up out of the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and have feared other gods, and walked in the customs of the nations, whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel, and in the customs that the kings of Israel had practiced. And the people of Israel did secretly against the Lord their God things that were not right. They built for themselves high places in all their towns, from watchtower to fortified city. They set up for themselves pillars and Asherim on every high hill and under every green tree. And there they made offerings on all the high places, as the nations did, whom the Lord carried away before them. And they did wicked things, provoking the Lord to anger, and they served idols, of which the Lord had said to them, "You shall not do this." Yet the Lord warned Israel and Judah by every prophet and every seer, saying, "Turn from your evil ways and keep my commandments and my statutes, in accordance with all the law that I commanded your fathers, and that I sent to you by my servants the prophets." But they would not listen. They were stubborn, and as their fathers had been, who did not believe in the Lord their God. They despised his statutes and his covenant that he made with their fathers, and the warnings that he gave them. They also went after false idols and became false, and they followed the nations that were around them, concerning whom the Lord had commanded them, they should not do like them. And they abandoned all the commandments of the Lord their God, and made for themselves metal images of 2 calves, and they made an Asherah, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served Baal. They burned their sons and their daughters as offerings, and used divination and omens, and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord, provoking him to anger. Therefore the Lord was very angry with Israel, and removed them out of his sight. None was left but the tribe of Judah only. Judah also did not keep the commandments of the Lord their God, but walked in the customs that Israel had introduced. And the Lord rejected all the descendants of Israel, and afflicted them, and gave them into the hand of plunderers, until he had cast them out of his sight. When he had torn Israel from the house of David, they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king. And Jeroboam drove Israel from following the Lord, and made them commit great sin. The people of Israel walked in all the sins that Jeroboam did. They did not depart from them, until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he had spoken by all his servants the prophets, so that Israel was exiled from their own land to Assyria until this day. Alright, so Assyria resettles Samaria. And the king of Assyria brought people from Babylon, Cuthah, Ava, Hamath, and Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the people of Israel. And they took possession of Samaria and lived in its cities. And at the beginning of their dwelling there, they did not fear the Lord. Therefore the Lord sent lions among them, which killed some of them. So the king of Assyria was told, "The nations that you have carried away and placed in the cities of Samaria do not know the law of the God of the land. Therefore he has sent lions among them, and behold, they are killing them, because they do not know the law of the God of the land." Then the king of Assyria commanded, "Send there one of the priests whom you carried away from there, and let him go and dwell there and teach them the law of the God of the land." So one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and lived in Bethel, and taught them how they should fear the Lord. But every nation still made gods of his own, and put them in the shrines of the high places that the Samaritans had made, every nation in the cities in which they lived. The men of Babylon made Succoth-Benoth, the men of Cuth made Nergal, the men of Hamath made Ashima, and the Avites made Nibzad and Tarvak, and the Sepharites burned their children in the fire to Adremelech, and Adremelech the gods of Sepharvaim. They also feared the Lord, and appointed from among themselves all sorts of people as priests of the high places, who sacrificed for them in the shrines of the high places. So they feared the Lord, but also served their own gods, after the manner of the nations from among whom they have been carried away. To this day they do according to the former manner. They do not fear the Lord, and they do not follow the statutes or the rules or the law or the commandment that the Lord commanded the children of Jacob, whom he named Israel. The Lord made a covenant with them and commanded them, "You shall not fear other gods or bow yourselves to them or serve them or sacrifice to them, but you shall fear the Lord, who brought you out of the land of Egypt with great power and with an outstretched arm. You shall bow yourselves to him, and to him you shall sacrifice. And the statutes and the rules and the law and the commandment that he wrote for you, you shall always be careful to do. You shall not fear other gods, and you shall not forget the covenant that I made with you. You shall not fear other gods, but you shall fear the Lord your God, and he will deliver you out of the hand of all your enemies." However, they would not listen, but they did according to their former manner. So these nations feared the Lord and also served their carved images. Their children did likewise, and their children's children, as their fathers did, so they do to this day. So they're serving two masters. Sorry, you can't serve two masters, and which was what they're doing here. They're serving two masters. They're trying to, they're fearing God, but they're serving their idols and their things as well. So Hezekiah reigns in Judah. In the 3rd year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel, Hezekiah the son, remember Hezekiah's a righteous king, from memory, son of Ahaz, king of Judah, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Abi, the son of Zechariah, and he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that David his father had done. He removed the high places and broke the pillars and cut down the Asherah, and he broke in pieces the bronze serpent that Moses had made. For until those days the people of Israel had made offerings to it. It was called Nehushtan. And he trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel, so that there was none like him among all the kings of Judah after him, nor among those who were before him. For he held fast to the Lord. He did not depart from following him, but kept the commandments that the Lord commanded Moses. And the Lord was with him wherever he went. He prospered. He rebelled against the king of Assyria and would not serve him. He struck down the Philistines as far as Gaza and its territory, from watchtower to fortified city. In the 4th year of King Hezekiah, which was the 7th year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel, Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came up against Samaria and besieged it. And at the end of 3 years he took it. In the 6th year of Hezekiah, which was the 9th year of Hoshea, king of Israel, Samaria was taken. The king of Assyria carried the Israelites away to Assyria and put them in Halah and on the Habor, the river of Goshen, and in the cities of the Medes, because they did not obey the voice of the Lord their God, but transgressed his covenant. Even all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded, they neither listened nor obeyed. Okay, so this is when the Israelites are taken away, that we see here. So in the 6th year of Hezekiah, that's when Israel was taken. Sennacherib attacks Judah. In the 14th year of King Hezekiah, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up against all the fortified cities of Judah and took them. And Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent to the king of Assyria at Lachish, saying, "I have done wrong. Withdraw from me. Whatever you impose on me, I will bear." And the king of Assyria required of Hezekiah, king of Judah, 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. And Hezekiah gave him all the silver that was found in the house of the Lord and in the treasuries of the king's house. At that time Hezekiah stripped the gold from the doors of the temple of the Lord and from the doorposts that Hezekiah, king of Judah, had overlaid, and gave it to the king of Assyria. And the king of Assyria sent the Tartan, the Rabsaris, and the Rabshaketh with a great army from Lachish to King Hezekiah at Jerusalem. And they went up and came to Jerusalem. When they arrived, they came and stood by the conduit of the upper pool, which is on the highway to the watcher's field. And then when they called for the king, there came out to them Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, who was over the household, and Shebna, the secretary, and Joash, the son of Asaph, the recorder. And the Rabshakeh said to them, "Say to Hezekiah, thus says the great king, the king of Assyria, on what do you rest this trust of yours? Do you think that mere words are strategy and power for war? In whom do you now trust that you have rebelled against me? Behold, you are trusting now in Egypt, that broken reed of a staff, which will pierce the hand of any man who leans on it. Such is Pharaoh king of Egypt to all who trust in him. But if you say to me, we trust in the Lord our God, is it not he whose high places and altars Hezekiah has removed, saying to Judah and to Jerusalem, you shall worship before this altar in Jerusalem? I think what he's saying here is he thinks obviously God is, in those high places because they worshipped who they worshipped. Come now, make a wager with my master, the king of Assyria. I will give you 2,000 horses if you're able on your part to set riders on them. How then can you repulse a single captain among the least of my master's servants, when you trust in Egypt for chariots and for horsemen? Okay, so they could either side with, we see this in the story of Jeremiah, they can either side with Assyria or with Egypt, for support. But obviously they have to tribute to Assyria, they have to give them, they come seeking gold and this regular tribute, a portion of the land, because they're dominating over them. Moreover is it without the Lord that I have come up against this place to destroy it. The Lord said to me, go up against this land and destroy it. Then Eliakim the son of Hilkiah and Shebna and Joah said to the Rabshaketh, please speak to your servants in Aramaic, for we understand it. Do not speak to us in the language of Judah within the hearing of the people who are on the wall. But the Rabshaketh said to them, has my master sent me to speak these words to your master and to you, and not to the men sitting on the wall, who are doomed with you to eat their own dung and to drink their own urine? Then the Rabshakeh stood and called out in a loud voice in the language of Judah, hear the word of the great king, the king of Assyria. Thus says the king, do not let Hezekiah deceive you, for he will not be able to deliver you out of my hand. So he's intimidating Hezekiah. Do not let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord by saying, the Lord will surely deliver us, and this city will not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Do not listen to Hezekiah, for thus says the king of Assyria, make your peace with me, and come out to me. Then each one of you will eat of his own vine, and each one of his own fig tree, and each one of you will drink the water of his own cistern, until I come and take you away to a land like your own land, a land of grain and wine, a land of bread and vineyards, a land of olive trees and honey, that you may live and not die. And do not listen to Hezekiah when he misleads you by saying, the Lord will deliver us. Has any of the gods of the nations ever delivered his land out of the hand of the king of Assyria? So he's boasting. Where are the gods of Hamath and Arpad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim, Hena and Avar? Have they delivered Samaria out of my hand? Who among all the gods of the lands have delivered their lands out of my hand, that the Lord should deliver Jerusalem out of my hand? But the people went silent and answered him not a word, for the king's command was, do not answer him. Then Eliakim the son of Hilkiah, who was over the household, and Shebna the secretary, and Joah the son of Asaph the recorder, came to Hezekiah with their clothes torn, and told him the words of the Rabshaketh. Okay, Isaiah reassures Hezekiah. As soon as King Hezekiah heard it, he tore his clothes and covered himself with sackcloth and went into the house of the Lord. And he sent Eliakim, who was over the household, and Shebna the secretary and the senior priest covered with sackcloth, to the prophet Isaiah the son of Amos. Okay, so we see that they go straight to the prophet of God to then see what God's saying to them. Okay, because that's who was dedicated to hear from God. They said to him, thus says Hezekiah, this day is a day of distress, of rebuke, and of disgrace. Children have come to the point of birth, and there is no strength to bring them forth. It may be that the Lord your God heard all the words of the Rabshaketh, whom his master, this king of Assyria, has sent to mock the living God, and will rebuke the words that the Lord your God has heard. Therefore lift up your prayer for the remnant that is left. When the servants of the king Hezekiah came to Isaiah, Isaiah said to them, say to your master, thus says the Lord, do not be afraid because of the words that you have heard, with which the servants of the king of Assyria have reviled me. Behold, I will put a spirit in him, so that he shall hear a rumour and return to his own land, and I'll make him fall by the sword in his own land. Okay, so it doesn't matter who it is. We see God's sovereign. Okay, and God takes care of his people. And we see here that, God said, I'll take care of you. Like, he won't destroy them all. He's just like, I'll put a spirit in him, and I'll make him hear a rumor and trust in something false, and he'll return to his own land, but he will fall by the sword in his own land. Obviously, is a punishment for his words against God. Sennacherib defies the Lord. The Rabshaketh returned and found the king of Assyria fighting against Libnah, for he heard that the king had left Lachish. Now the king heard concerning Tirhakah, king of Cush. Behold, he has sent out to fight against you. So he sent messengers again to Hezekiah, saying, Thus shall you speak to Hezekiah, king of Judah. Do not let your God in whom you trust deceive you by promising that Jerusalem will not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Behold, you have heard what the kings of Assyria have done to all lands, devoting them to destruction. And shall you be delivered? Have the gods of the nations delivered them, the nations that my fathers destroyed? Goshen, Haran, Rezeph, and all the people of Eden who were in Telazar? Where is the king of Hamath, the king of Arpad, the king of the city of Sepharvaim, the king of Hena, or the king of Ivor? Okay, so he trusts in his own gods, he trusts in his own hand. Hezekiah's prayer. Hezekiah received the letter from the hand of the messengers and read it. And Hezekiah went up to the house of the Lord and spread it before the Lord. And Hezekiah prayed before the Lord and said, O Lord, the God of Israel, enthroned above the cherubim, you are the God, you alone, of all the kingdoms of the earth. You have made heaven and earth. Incline your ear, O Lord, and hear. Open out your eyes, O Lord, and see, and hear the word of Sennacherib, which he has sent to mock the living God. Truly, O Lord, the kings of Assyria have laid waste the nations and their lands, and have cast their gods into the fire, for they were not gods, but the work of men's hands, wood and stone. Therefore they were destroyed. So now, O Lord our God, save us, please, from his hand, that all the kingdoms of the earth may know you, that you are, O Lord our God, so our God alone. So he's calling out for help to God. Isaiah prophesies Sennacherib's fall. Then Isaiah the son of Amos sent to Hezekiah, saying, Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, your prayer to me about Sennacherib king of Assyria I have heard. This is the word that the Lord has spoken concerning him. She despises you, she scorns you, the virgin daughter of Zion. She wags her head behind you, the daughter of Jerusalem. Whom have you mocked and reviled? Against whom have you raised your voice and lifted your eyes to the heights? Against the Holy One of Israel. By your messengers you have mocked the Lord, and you have said, With my many chariots I have gone up the heights of the mountains to the far recesses of Lebanon. I felled its tallest cedars, its choicest cypresses. I entered its farthest lodging place. Its most fruitful forest I dug wells, and drank foreign waters. And I dried up with the sole of my foot all the streams of Egypt. Have you not heard that I determined it long ago? I planned from days of old, that now I bring to pass, that you should turn fortified cities into heaps of ruins, while their inhabitants, shorn of strength, are dismayed and confounded, and have become like plants of the field, and like tender grass, like grass on the housetops, blighted before it is grown. But I know you are sitting down, and you're going out and coming in, and you're raging against me. Because you have raged against me, and your complacency has come into my ears, I will put my hook in your nose, and my bit in your mouth, and I will turn you back on the way by which you came. And this shall be the sign for you: this year eat what grows of itself, and in the second year what springs of the same. Then in the third year sow and reap, and plant vineyards and eat their fruit. And the surviving remnant of the house of Judah shall take away the root downward and bearing fruit upward. For out of Jerusalem shall go a remnant, and out of Mount Zion a band of survivors. The zeal of the Lord will do this. Therefore thus says the Lord concerning the king of Assyria, he shall not come into this city or shoot an arrow there, or come before it with a shield, or cast up a siege mount against it. By the way that he came, by the same way he shall return. And he shall not come into this city, declares the Lord. For I will defend this city to save it for my own sake, and for the sake of my servant David. And that night the angel of the Lord went out and struck down 185,000 in the camp of the Assyrians. And when people arose early in the morning, behold, these were all dead bodies. Then Sennacherib king of Assyria departed and went home and lived at Nineveh. And as he was worshipping in the house of Nishrosh his god, Adremelech and Sharezer his sons struck him down with the sword and escaped into the land of Ararat. And Esarhaddon his son reigned in his place. Right, so as was prophesied by Isaiah that he would die, he'd be given into his own hand. He'd die in his own country. Hezekiah's illness and recovery. In those days Hezekiah became sick and was at the point of death. And Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos, came to him and said to him, Thus says the Lord, set your house in order, for you shall die, you shall not recover. And Hezekiah turned his face to the wall and prayed to the Lord, saying, Now, O Lord, please remember how I have walked before you in faithfulness and with a whole heart, and have done what is good in your sight. And Hezekiah wept bitterly, and before Isaiah had gone out of the middle court, the word of the Lord came to him. Turn back and say to Hezekiah, the leader of my people, Thus says the Lord, the God of David your father, I have heard your prayer, I have seen your tears. Behold, I will heal you. On the third day you shall go up to the house of the Lord, and I'll add 15 years to your life. I will deliver you and this city out of the hand of the king of Assyria, and I will defend this city for my own sake and for my servant David's sake. And Isaiah said, Bring a cake of figs, and let them take and lay it on the boil, that he may recover. And Hezekiah said to Isaiah, What shall be the sign that the Lord will heal me, and that I shall go up to the house of the Lord on the third day? And Isaiah said, This shall be the sign to you from the Lord, that the Lord will do the thing that he has promised. Shall the shadow go forward 10 steps, or go back 10 steps? Okay, so this is where time has changed. And Hezekiah answered, It is an easy thing for the shadow to lengthen 10 steps. Rather let the shadow go back 10 steps. And Isaiah the prophet called to the Lord. And he brought the shadow back 10 steps by which it had gone down on the steps of Ahaz. I remember looking at a study on this sundial of Ahaz, and a pretty convincing argument that it worked out to be about 45 minutes of the day had changed because of it. But yeah, I guess we really need to study it, and you need to dive into time to understand it. Hezekiah and the Babylonian envoys. At that time, Merodach-Baladan, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent envoys with letters and a present to Hezekiah, for he heard that Hezekiah had been sick. And Hezekiah welcomed them, and he showed them all his treasure house, the silver, the gold, the spices, the precious oil, his armory, all that was found in his storehouses. There was nothing in his house or in all his realm that Hezekiah did not show them. Then Isaiah the prophet came to King Hezekiah and said to him, What did these men say, and from where did they come to you? And Hezekiah said, They have come from a far country, from Babylon. He said, What have they seen in your house? And Hezekiah answered, They have seen all that is in my house. There is nothing in my storehouses that I did not show them. Then Isaiah said to Hezekiah, Hear the word of the Lord. Behold, the days are coming when all that is in your house, and that which your fathers have stored up till this day, shall be carried to Babylon. Nothing shall be left, says the Lord. And some of your own sons who will come from you, whom you will father, shall be taken away, and there shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. And Hezekiah said to Isaiah, The word of the Lord that you have spoken is good. For he thought, Why not, if there will be peace and security in my days? The rest of the deeds of Hezekiah and all his might, and how he made the pool and the conduit and brought water into the city, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And Hezekiah slept with his fathers, and Manasseh his son reigned in his place. Okay, so Manasseh took over. Manasseh reigns in Judah. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hephzibah, and he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to the despicable practices of the nations whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel. For he rebuilt the high places that Hezekiah his father had destroyed, and he erected altars for Baal and made an Asherah, as Ahab king of Israel had done, and worshipped all the hosts of heaven and served them. And he built altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord had said, In Jerusalem will I put my name. And he built altars for all the hosts of heaven in the two courts of the house of the Lord. And he burned his son as an offering, and used fortune-telling and omens, and dealt with mediums and with necromancers. He did much evil in the sight of the Lord, provoking him to anger. And the carved image of Asherah that he had made, he set in the house of which the Lord said to David and to Solomon his son, In this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, I'll put my name forever. And I'll not cause the feet of Israel to wander any more out of the land that I gave to their fathers, if only they will be careful to do according to all that I have commanded them, and according to all the law that my servant Moses commanded them. But they did not listen, and Manasseh led them astray to do more evil than the nations had done, whom the Lord destroyed before the people of Israel. Manasseh's idolatry denounced. And the Lord said by his servants the prophets, Because Manasseh king of Judah has committed these abominations, and has done things more evil than all the Amorites did, who were before him, and has made Judah also to sin with his idols. Therefore thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, Behold, I am bringing upon Jerusalem and Judah such disaster, that the ears of everyone who hears it will tingle. And I will stretch over Jerusalem the measuring lines of Samaria, and the plumb line of the house of Ahab, and I'll wipe Jerusalem as one wipes a dish, wiping it and turning it upside down. And I'll forsake the remnant of my heritage, and give it into the hand of their enemies. And they shall become a prey and a spoil to all their enemies, because they have done what is evil in my sight, and provoked me to anger. Okay, so he says here, I'll stretch over the Jerusalem the measuring line and the plumb line, and I'll wipe Jerusalem as one wipes a dish. Alright, so wiping it and turning it upside down, and I'll forsake the remnant of my heritage. Okay, because they have done what is evil in my sight, and provoked me to anger, since the day their fathers came out of Egypt, even to this day. Moreover, Manasseh shed very much innocent blood, till he had filled Jerusalem from one end to another, besides the sin that he made Judah to sin, so that they did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. Now the rest of the acts of Manasseh, and all that he did, and the sin that he committed, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And Manasseh slept with his fathers, and was buried in the garden of his house, in the garden of Uzzah, and Amon his son reigned in his place. Not good. Amon reigns in Judah. Amon was 22 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Melishemeth, the daughter of Haraz of Jobar. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, as Manasseh his father had done. He walked in all the way in which his father walked, and served the idols that his father served, and worshipped them. He abandoned the Lord, the God of his fathers, and did not walk in the way of the Lord. And the servants of Amon conspired against him, and put the king to death in his house. But the people of the land struck down all those who had conspired against King Amon. And the people of the land made Josiah his son king in his place. Now the rest of the acts of Amon that he did, are they not written in the book of Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And he was buried in his tomb in the garden of Uzzah, and Josiah his son reigned in his place. Josiah reigns in Judah. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 31 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jedidiah, the daughter of Adaiah of Bosca. And he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, and walked in all the ways of David his father. And he did not turn aside to the right or to the left. Okay, Josiah repairs the temple. In the 18th year of, and we see this repeated pattern, okay, we see multiple leaders not walking with God, and then we see one come along all of a sudden that do, and they restore everything, and then the next leader comes along and destroys everything that they built again. So it's this constant cycle of up, down, up, down. Go up to Hilkiah the high priest, that he may count the money that has been brought into the house of the Lord, which the keepers of the threshold have collected from the people. And let it be given into the hand of the workmen who have the oversight of the house of the Lord. And let them give it to the workmen who are at the house of the Lord repairing the house, that is, to the carpenters, to the builders, and to the masons. And let them use it for buying timber and quarries stone to repair the house, But no accounting shall be asked for them for the money that is delivered into the hand, for they deal honestly. Hilkiah finds the book of the law. And Hilkiah the high priest said to Shapnan the secretary, excuse me, I'm just getting comfortable. Hilkiah the high priest said to Shapnan the secretary, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord. And Hilkiah gave the book to Shapnan, and he read it. And Shapnan the secretary came to the king, and reported to the king, your servants have emptied out the money that was found in the house, and have delivered it into the hand of the workmen, who have the oversight of the house of the Lord. And Shapnan the secretary told the king, Hilkiah the priest has given me a book. And Shapnan read it before the king. When the king heard the words of the book of the law, he tore his clothes. And the king commanded Hilkiah the priest, and Ahikam the son of Shapnan, and Achbor the son of Micaiah, and Shapnan the secretary, and Asaiah the king's servant, saying, Go inquire of the Lord for me, and for the people, and for all Judah, concerning the words of this book that has been found. For great is the wrath of the Lord that is kindled against us, because our fathers have not obeyed the words of this book, and do according to all that is written concerning us. So Hilkiah the priest, and Ahikam, and Achbor, and Shapnan, and Asaiah went to Huldah the prophetess, the wife of Shallum the son of Tikvah, son of Harhas, keeper of the wardrobe. Now she lived in Jerusalem in the second quarter, and they talked with her. And she said to them, Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, tell the man who sent you to me, Thus says the Lord, Behold, I'll bring disaster upon this place and upon its inhabitants, all the words of the book that the king of Judah has read. Because they have forsaken me and have made offerings to other gods, that they might provoke me to anger with all the works of their hands. Therefore my wrath will be kindled against this place, and it will not be quenched. But to the king of Judah, who sent you to inquire of the Lord, thus shall you say to him, Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, regarding the words that you have heard, because your heart was penitent, and you humbled yourself before the Lord, when you heard how I spoke against this place and against its inhabitants, that they should become a desolation and a curse, and you have torn your clothes and wept before me. I have also heard you, declares the Lord. Therefore, behold, I will gather you to your fathers, and you shall be gathered to your grave in peace, and your eyes shall not see all the disaster that I will bring upon this place. And they brought back word to the king. Josiah's reforms. And the king sent, and all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem were gathered to him. And the king went up to the house of the Lord, and with him all the men of Judah, and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests and the prophets, and all the people, both small and great. And he read in their hearing all the words of the book of the covenant, which had been found in the house of the Lord. And the king stood by the pillar and made a covenant before the Lord, to walk after the Lord and to keep his commandments. So we're talking about this a week or so ago, is that they constantly had to do this because this was the source of the law, and we had new generation after generation that came in, okay, and they weren't being taught it. They weren't teaching each other, so they had to continually do this in order to remind the people of the law so they could walk in the ways of God. But understanding, obviously, no one could ever truly keep it. But we see that there were those like the kings, like Hezekiah, that could do what was right in the eyes of God. Okay, they were still able to do what was right in the eyes of God through their faith. And we see God even changed time for Hezekiah and gave him more time. But we still see that, he still died, because all men are subject to death, of course, as we see. So we see a few people like Enoch and Elijah can be taken away, but we see all the others. We see like Moses, for example. Moses dies as well. So, and Joshua as well, and even Joseph. Okay, so let me just go back here. And he read their hearing all the words of the book of the covenant that had been found in the house of the Lord. And the king stood by the pillar and made a covenant before the Lord, to walk after the Lord and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all his heart and all his soul, to perform the words of this covenant that were written in this book. And all the people joined in the covenant. Okay, so for anyone who's joining, if you haven't seen, there's one called the Covenant. It's about Ezra, It's just like a short movie. Just type in The Covenant on YouTube. It's a good watch. It's obviously missing a few things, but it's called The Covenant, and it's about the reading of the Covenant in the time of Ezra, which is a different time, but it's a good watch if anyone's interested and hasn't seen it. It's a good watch. It's motivating because you see, people hang off every word of it, like it's knowledge. Right? They didn't have the internet. They didn't have, great grand libraries that all the people could just go and gain knowledge. Knowledge had to be passed from mouth to mouth. And so this knowledge and wisdom and understanding and the truth in the law is a great thing for people to be able to hear. So the king commanded Hilkiah the high priest and the priests of the second order and the keepers of the threshold, which is the entrance of the temple, to bring out the temple of the Lord all the vessels made for Baal, for Asherah, and for all the host of heaven. He burned them outside Jerusalem in the fields of the Kidron and carried the ashes to Bethel. And he deposed the priests whom the king of Judah had ordained to make offerings in the high places at the cities of Judah and around Jerusalem. Those also who burn incense to Baal, to the sun and the moon and the constellations and all the hosts of the heavens. Okay, they looked up to these constellations, the sun and the moon, as gods. Okay, which is where we get all this astrology from. When we talk about astronomy, when we talk about signs and seasons and time, okay, that's what the stars were for. Okay, but these guys were worshipping these things as gods. Okay, that's why we're told, be very careful around things like horoscopes and omens and things like that, birth signs, because that is all wickedness. That's divination. Okay, so we're not to do that. And he brought out the Asherah from the house of the Lord outside Jerusalem to the brook Kidron, and burned it at the brook Kidron, and beat it to dust, and catch the dust of it upon the graves of the common people. And he broke down the houses of the male cult prostitutes who were in the house of the Lord, where the women wove hangings for the Asherah. And he brought all the priests out of the cities of Judah, and defiled the high places where the priests had made offerings, from Geba to Beersheba. And he broke down the high places of the gates that were at the entrance of the gate of Joshua, the governor of the city, which were on one's left at the gate of the city. However, the priests of the high places did not come up to the altar of the Lord in Jerusalem, but they ate unleavened bread among their brothers. And he defiled Topeth, which is in the valley of the son of Hinnom. And no one might burn his son or his daughter as an offering to Molech. And he removed the horses that the kings of Judah had dedicated to the sun at the entrance to the house of the Lord, by the chamber of Nathan, Melech the chamberlain, which was in the precincts. And he burned the chariots of the sun with fire, and the altars on the roof of the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Judah had made. And the altars that Manasseh had made in 2 courts of the house of the Lord, he pulled down and broke in pieces, and cast the dust of them into the brook Kidron. And the king defiled the high places that were east of Jerusalem, to the south of the mountain of corruption, which Solomon the king of Israel had built for Ashtaroth, the abomination of the Sidonians, and for Shemesh the abomination of Moab, and for Milcom the abomination of the Ammonites. And he broke in pieces the pillars, and cut down the Asherim, and filled their places with the bones of men. Moreover, the altar of Bethel, the high place erected by Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, that altar with the high place he pulled down and burned, reducing it to dust. He also burned the Asherah, and as Josiah turned, he saw the tombs there on the mount. And he sent and took the bones out of the tombs, and burned them on the altar, and defiled it, according to the word of the Lord that the man of God proclaimed, who had predicted these things. Then he said, "What is that monument that I see?" And the men of the city told him, "It is the tomb of the man of God who came from Judah, and predicted these things that you have done against the altar of Bethel." And he said, "Let him be, let no man move his bones." So they led his bones alive with the bones of the prophet who came out of Samaria. And Josiah removed all the shrines also of the high places that were in the cities of Samaria, which kings of Israel had made, provoking the Lord to anger. He did to them according to all that he had done at Bethel. And he sacrificed all the priests of the high places who were there on the altars, and burnt human bones on them. Then he returned to Jerusalem. Uzziah restores the Passover. And the king commanded all the people, "Keep the Passover to the Lord your God, as it is written in this book of the covenant. For no such Passover had been kept since the days of the judges who judged Israel, or during all the days of the kings of Israel, or of the kings of Judah. But in the 18th year of King Uzziah, this Passover was kept to the Lord in Jerusalem. Moreover, Uzziah put away the mediums and the necromancers and the household gods. Okay, so once again, getting rid of them all, and the idols and all the abominations that were seen in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem, that he might establish the words of the law that were written in the book, that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Lord. Before him there was no king like him, who turned to the Lord with all his heart, and with all his soul, and with all his might, according to all the law of Moses, nor did any like him arise after him. Still the Lord did not turn from the burning of his great wrath, by which his anger was kindled against Judah, because of all the provocations with which Manasseh had provoked him. And the Lord said, I will remove Judah also out of my sight, as I have removed Israel, and I'll cast off this city that I have chosen, Jerusalem, and the house of which I said, my name shall be there. So I never actually realized that the breaking point was wicked King Manasseh, right? Is that that was actually the breaking point for where it happened with Judah, where things started to go downhill with the Babylonians, where they were to be carried away. So Uzziah's death in battle. Now the rest of the acts of Uzziah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah? We're going to read this next, okay? Very shortly. In his days, Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went up to the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates. King Uzziah went to meet him, and Pharaoh Necho killed him at Megiddo as soon as he saw him. And his servants carried him dead in a chariot from Megiddo and brought him to Jerusalem and buried him in his own tomb. And the people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Uzziah, and anointed him and made him king in his father's place. Okay, so his son took over. Jehoahaz's reign in captivity. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. It's not very long. His mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all his fathers had done. And Pharaoh Necho hang on a minute. Okay, so yeah, when it says his fathers, it means previously, because his father was righteous. Okay, interesting. And Pharaoh Necho put him in bonds at Riblah in the hand of Hamath, that he might not reign in Jerusalem, and laid on the land a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim, his son of Uzziah, king in the place of Josiah his father, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. But he took Jehoahaz away, and he came to Egypt and died there. And Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land to give the money according to the command of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and the gold of the people of the land from everyone according to his assessment, to give it to Pharaoh Necho. So we can see that they're siding with the Egyptians here instead of the Assyrians. Jehoiakim reigns in Judah. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zebiah, the daughter of Pedaiah of Rumah, and he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. In his days Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant for 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. And the Lord sent against him bands of the Chaldeans, and bands of the Syrians, and bands of the Moabites, and bands of the Ammonites, and sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord that is spoken by his servants the prophets. Surely this came upon Judah at the command of the Lord, to remove them out of his sight, for the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he had done, and also for the innocent blood that he had shed. For he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, and the Lord would not pardon. Now the rest of the deeds of Jehoiakim and all that he did, are they not written in the book of Chronicles of the kings of Judah? So Jehoiakim slept with his fathers, and Jehoiakim his son reigned in his place. And the king of Egypt did not come out again of his land, for the king of Babylon had taken all that belonged to the king of Egypt, from the brook of Egypt to the river Euphrates. Jehoiakim reigns in Judah. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. So it's going back here. His mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father had done. Jerusalem captured. Okay, this is where they get taken away. All right, this is the moment. Jerusalem captured. At this time, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up to Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to the city while his servants were besieging it. So to witness this. And Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, gave himself up to the king of Babylon, himself and his mother and his servants, and his officials and his palace officials. The king of Babylon took him prisoner in the 8th year of his reign, and carried off all the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king's house, and cut in pieces all the vessels of gold in the temple of the Lord, which Solomon king of Israel had made, as the Lord had foretold. He carried away all Jerusalem, and all the officials, and all the mighty men of valor, 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen, and all the smiths. None remained, except the poorest people of the land. And he carried away Jehoiakim to Babylon. The king's mother, the king's wives, his officials, and the chief men of the land he took into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon. And the king of Babylon brought captive to Babylon all the men of valor, 7,000, and the craftsmen and the metalworkers, 1,000, all of them strong and fit for war. And the king of Babylon made Mattaniah, Jehoiakim's uncle, king in his place, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah reigns in Judah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamachul, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah, and he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. But because of the anger of the Lord, it came to the point in Jerusalem and Judah that he cast them out from his presence. And Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. Fall and captivity of Judah. And in that 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, on the 10th day of the month, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came with all his army against Jerusalem and laid siege to it. And they built siege works all around it. So the city was besieged till the 11th year of King Zedekiah. On the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine was so severe in the city that there was no food for the people of the land. Then a breach was made in the city, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between the two walls, by the king's garden, and the Chaldeans were around the city, and they went in the directions of the Arabah. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all his army was scattered from him. Then they captured the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon at Riblah, and they passed sentence on him. They slaughtered the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him in chains and took him to Babylon. Now, if you want to watch a really good movie about this, I literally watched it a couple of nights ago. Let me find it. Let me paste the link in the channel. Hang on. It's really well done. I really enjoyed this. Yeah, it was this one. So it was the Bible Collections version of the story of Jeremiah, and so it shows what happens here. Like at first they come in, right? They come in and they take out all the vessels or everything out of the temple, as we saw, and then they come in and they're not listening to what Jeremiah prophesied during this time. So basically, yeah, they come in and take the place, and it's quite well done. I mean, all these movies you got to take with a grain of salt, because they're not going to be like super accurate. But it's something, if you want to get the basic story, it's definitely worth watching anyway. I thought it was worth watching. Okay, you even see the scene where he kills his sons and burns his eyes out with a hot iron or a hot stone. In the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, that was the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. Nebuzaradan, the captain of the bodyguard, a servant of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem, and he burned the house of the Lord and the king's house and all the houses of Jerusalem. Every great house he burned down, and all the army of the Chaldeans who were with the captain of the guard broke down the walls around Jerusalem. And the rest of the people who were left in the city, and the deserters who were deserted to the king of Babylon, together with the rest of the multitude, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried into exile. But the captain of the guard left some of the poorest of the land to be vine dressers and plowmen. And the pillars of bronze that were in the house of the Lord, and the stands in the bronze sea that were in the house of the Lord, the Chaldeans broke in pieces and carried the bronze to Babylon. And they took away the pots and the shovels and the snuffers and the dishes for incense and all the vessels of bronze used in the temple service. The fire pans and also the bowls, what was of gold, the captain of the guard took away as gold, and what was of silver as silver. As for the two pillars, the one sea, and the stands that Solomon had made for the house of the Lord, the bronze of all these vessels was beyond weight. The height of one pillar was 18 cubits, and on it was a capital of bronze. The height of the capital was 3 cubits, a lattice work in pomegranates all of bronze, all around the capital, and the second pillar had the same with the lattice work. And the captain of the guard took Sariah the chief priest, and Zephaniah the second priest, and the 3 keepers of the threshold. And from the city he took an officer who had been in command of the men of war, and 5 men of the king's council who were found in the city. Okay, so they just plundered this place and took everything. And the secretary of the commander of the army, who mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land who were found in the city. And Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, took them and brought them to the king of Babylon at Riblah. And the king of Babylon struck them down and put them to death at Riblah in the land of Hamath. So Judah was taken into exile out of its land. Okay, so they did leave a few poor people that remained in Jerusalem, and we see that they're basically living for 70 years. They're living in a house with a city without walls, right? So anyone could just come in and just kill them or take what they have. So, they're in a really dangerous place, that those that are living in Jerusalem still, that we see after this event when they all get carried away in exile for 70 years. Gedaliah made governor of Judah, and over the people who remained in the land of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had left, he appointed Gedaliah the son of Ahikam, son of Shapnam, governor. Now when all the captains and their men heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah governor, they came with their men to Gedaliah at Mizpah, namely Ishmael the son of Nethaniah, and Jehoan son of Kareah, and Sariah the son of Senhumeth the Netophathite, and Jazaniah the son of the Maccathite. And Gedaliah swore to them and their men, saying, Do not be afraid, because of the Chaldean officials. Live in the land and serve the king of Babylon, and it shall be well with you. But in the 7th month, Ishmael the son of Nethaniah, son of Elishama, of the royal family, came with 10 men and struck down Gedaliah and put him to death, along with the Jews and the Chaldeans who were with him at Mizpah. Then all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the forces arose and went to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. Jehoiakim released from prison. And in the 37th year of the exile of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, in the 12th month, of the 7th day of the month, evil Merodach, king of Babylon, in the year that he began to reign, graciously freed Jehoiakim, king of Judah, from prison. And he spoke kindly to him, and gave him a seat above the seat of the kings, who were with him in Babylon. So Jehoiakim put off his prison garments, and every day of his life he dined regularly at the king's table, and for his allowance a regular allowance was given him by the king, according to his daily needs, as long as he lived. Okay, so he was given a position here to sit at the king's table. And that concludes the book of 2 Kings. So before we continue, we'll stay on the same video, but we will mark it off as always so we can see progress. Now this is bothering me, these orange bits here, so I'm just going to fix these up too. I've been there for a while now. It's just one of those annoying things. If it lets me, it might not let me. Oh yeah, there we go. I can just do that. Okay, I'm going to just make them green. There we go. Alright, so we finished this one. We're nearly at the end of the Bible, everyone. Now we're going to start 1 Chronicles. Okay, and just 1 second. Just for good measure. That color, I think. Yeah, something like that. Okay, so we currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books to go, and then we're finished. So we're officially at the 60 mark. So if we have a look here and we go up, this is all we've read. 130 videos, 131 videos, ranging from 2 hours to 3 hours. And then some videos of 12 hours and 7 hours in order to get here. So we're well and truly over 400 hours of reading that we've done in order to get here. And obviously reading and commentary as we've been learning. Otherwise, if we just read and we just read to read through it, we wouldn't have absorbed as much. So yeah, it's been amazing, guys, and just, you know, big thumbs up to everyone who supports this channel and continues to do this, and praise God for you know, giving us the strength to continue and to continue to read. So let's continue on now in First Chronicles, as we're going to see more insight into some of the occurrences in Kings with the kings. Then we're going to actually, you know, go into some interesting territory in Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Psalms, and Proverbs. Okay, we're really going to dive into the world of Solomon, and we're going to dive into, you know, many elements of understanding here. So hopefully by the time we hit Psalms and Proverbs, we should be finding a lot of oil in our lamps, okay, by this stage, because these things here, right, they're really gonna lift us, the Psalms and the Proverbs. And we're gonna take our time with them. We're gonna take our time with them because we want to truly understand the context of them as well. But we are approaching this incredible milestone here that we're going through now. First and Second Chronicles, these are big reads. Okay, these are going to take a period of time to get through, but we are going to be doing a few reads. So I'm going to, after this 3 hours is reached, I'm going to have a break for half an hour and then do another 3 hours and continue like that until I'm beat for the day. So, and then tomorrow I'm going to continue that as well. Lord willing, of course, but I just want to break some of this ground up and make some progress here. So, okay, so what we see in First Chronicles, we're going to see a lot of this, laid out in the First Chronicles. So First Chronicles from Adam to Abraham. Okay, so we're going to go through the lines now. We're going to read everything. I'm not going to skip over this just because it's names and because it's a list. From Adam to Abraham. Adam, Seth, Enosh, Canaan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The sons of Japheth: Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tiras. The sons of Gomer: Ashkenaz, Riphath, Togarmah. The sons of Javan: Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Rodanim. The sons of Ham: Cush, Egypt, Put, and Canaan. Okay, so see their names are all these locations. Okay, so land of Canaan, land of Egypt, Put, and Cush. Okay, these locations are all listed in Isaiah. Okay, with all these judgments to fall upon them, for example. Sons of Cush: Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Ramah, and Sabtika. Sons of Ramah: Sheba and Dedan. Cush fathered Nimrod. Okay, so important to know. Okay, we talk about Easter, and we talk about Nimrod's, Nimrod's wife, for example. Okay, so might as well just bring this up now. Let me just find it quickly. Okay, there's also other things like Ishtar and some other things around Easter, but let's just have a quick look now. I've got it on my community channel from a little while ago. It's a good study. Let me just find it. Sorry guys, only take a moment. But we just want to show the worship of Nimrod is still alive and well. Just have to go back quite a few days, obviously. Going back. I mean, for example, guys, like this was like this is mainstream news, okay, at Easter time, how they were celebrating it. All right, does that look normal to you? Does that look like something of God to you? All right, this is just on the this is like in Ecuador, for example. Ecuador is apparently a high Christian community in Ecuador. And what's this? All right, and that's just like normal news, like promoting it. Right, that's one example. Let me just find. I think I'm close. I was close with that there. Probably shouldn't have clicked on that. I got to go back now. All right. Anyway, let me skip this. But basically, what we see, right, is Nimrod. Okay, just to be, just to understand, Nimrod was, you know, the king of Babylon. Okay, and Nimrod basically was the built the Tower of Babel, for example. We see at Christmas time, okay, it's celebrating Nimrod's birthday, and we see at Easter it's actually celebrating Oeaster, Nimrod's wife, all right, who's a goddess of sensuality. So understand that, you know, it's a time of evil at Easter and at Christmas. And those times, the church these days, they celebrate. They have no clue because they haven't bothered to research it and study it. All right, but then they just go, oh, well, that's the time of Christ. No, Passover is the time of Christ. Okay, that's what we see. Passover was always the time. Okay, and it was never Easter. Easter's not in the Bible. So be not deceived. He was the first on earth to be a mighty man. Egypt fathered Ludum, Anamim, Lehabim, Maphtuhim, Pathrusim, Casluhim, from whom the Philistines came, and Caphtorim. Canaan fathered Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, and the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, the Archites, the Sinites, the Arvadites, there's so many of them, and the Zemarites and the Hamathites, there's so many. The sons of Shem, Elam, Assur, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram, and the sons of Aram, Uz, Hul, Gether, and Meshech. Arphaxad fathered Shelah, and Shelah fathered Eber. To Eber were born two sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. Joktan fathered Almadad, Sheleph, Hazarmaveth, Jerah, Hadoram, Uzal, Diklah, Obal, Abniel, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. Shem, Arphaxad, Shelah, Eber, Peleg, Reu, Serah, Nahor, Terah, Abram, that is Abraham. Okay, so now the line from Abraham to Jacob. The sons of Abraham, Isaac and Ishmael. Okay, so Ishmael is important not to forget. Okay, why? Well, people forget about Ishmael, but very important in the story. Okay, I wonder if I can fix this up where it's all messed up here. Where is it? Should be up here. Yeah. Let me just see if I can fix this up. Can I drag this? What's going on here while this got messed up? I think everything got kind of like nudged up. Yeah, something got majorly messed up here. Okay, key point is sort of here, just to show. So Isaac. Okay, and there's a genealogy of Abraham there too. And then so, anyway, let's have a look at Ishmael, even though this is all mucked up. Okay, so was the first son to Hagar. Okay, Hagar was an Egyptian. Okay, and basically, Sarah or Sarah, which became Sarah, and Abraham, they couldn't have a child, so therefore Sarah took it into her own hands in order to basically, they should have waited on the Lord, but they didn't, even though there was a promise, and they used, or Sarah gave Hagar, her slave or her servant, to Abraham to have a child with. Okay, kind of like a bit of a surrogacy thing, if you will. And it didn't all work out very well because Hagar started to annoy Sarah. Sarah treated Hagar badly, and so on. But when Ishmael, the son of Hagar, and the very first son of Abraham, was cast out into the desert, and they roamed the desert, there they lived. Okay, and their communities grew up like these countries, for example, Iraq, Emirates, Jordan, Palestine, Egypt, Kuwait, Yemen, Syria, Sudan. Okay, so see the flag of Jordan. So if we have a look, guys, and we see where Jordan is today, for example, like modern day Jordan. Okay, so let's have a look here. Hang on, Jordan and Israel on a map. Let's have a look. Okay, so we see here, guys, we have Israel, and then we have Jordan, like literally right next to it. Okay, so we have Jordan here. Now, if we go to the prophecies that we've been speaking about, okay, which is Isaiah 17. Okay, that's one around Damascus, for example, a prophecy, and then we've got Isaiah 34. Okay, we have judgment on the nations. I think this. Hang on, I've got these. Yeah, this is the one. A great slaughter in the land of Edom. Okay, so Edom is modern day Jordan. Okay, so there's this great slaughter that's coming, all right, in this modern day Edom. And then obviously there's Isaiah 17, which there's a great event where Damascus will be destroyed completely, the city of Damascus. So what we're seeing here is that there's two major events. And now when we have a look at this, if we go back to the board and we go down to one interesting thing about the judgment on Jordan, okay, is that it's the sixth seal event. Okay, it tells us the skies roll up like a scroll and all their hosts fall as leaves from the vine. Okay, it's exactly what it tells us in the sixth seal. Okay, because we see that in Revelation. When we go to the sixth seal, okay, when he opened the sixth seal, I looked and behold, there was a great earthquake. So what we're looking for to have happened in the lead up to this great event is an earthquake, the sun going dark, an eclipse, and a blood moon. Okay, and now when it talks about the stars of the sky falling to the earth, right, what we actually see, interestingly enough, when I started looking into this a little bit more, it starts talking about the armies, like the hosts of heaven and the armies, and some other correlations here. So it could also mean the fall of, I've always put this down to obviously the fall of like Satan coming down to the earth. But it could also be the fall of these great nations, or the starting of the fall of them as well. But we see here either which way. It says, as the fig tree shed its winter fruit when shaken by a gale, the sky vanished like a scroll that's being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. What we know about the Jordan, okay, is it sits on a mountain range. Okay, it sits on a mountain range. Every mountain and island was removed from its place. Okay, then the kings in the earth and everyone hid themselves in the cave and among the rocks of the mountain. Okay, and hide us, for the great day of the wrath has come. So it's the kickoff of the tribulation, okay, when this happens. And so what we see is that this seems to be the first event that's likely to happen. Okay, is this judgment on Edom. So we should be looking to Jordan for the sixth seal event. We should be looking at this time, okay, where it descends on Edom. So, I only know that it's that because I've sort of had a look, but I mean, it could be, so modern day Edom. We have to look to, there's strong evidence of it being Edom. I'm just trying to find what I found the other day. Yeah, so there's still debate. There's still debate, guys, going on whether Jordan is there, but they keep finding more and more things. So it really is like one of those topics to research. But we see with Jordan, it's like mentioned here as the sixth seal event. So the reason why I'm mentioning that is because we're talking about it. We were talking about it, obviously with the sons of where we're talking about Ishmael. We're talking about they're the Arab nations that are kind of at war with Israel at the moment. These are their genealogies: the firstborn of Ishmael, Nebaioth and Kedar, Abdil, Mibsam, Mishma, Juma, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jetah, Napish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael. The sons of Keturah, Abraham's concubine, she bore Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. The sons of Jokshan, Sheba, and Dedan. The sons of Midian, Ephah, Hanok, Abida, and Eldah. All these are the descendants of Keturah. Abraham fathered Isaac, the sons of Isaac, Esau, and Israel. The sons of Esau, Eliphaz, Ruel, Joash, Jalem, and Korah. The sons of Eliphaz, Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, Kenaz, and of Timnah, Amalek. The sons of Ruel, Nahath, Zerah, Shema, and Mizhah. The sons of Seir, Lotan, Shobal, Zibian, Anah, Dishton, Ezer, and Dishtan. Sons of Lotan, Harai, and Heman. And Lotan's sister was Timnah. The sons of Shobal, Alvan, Manaha, Ebal, Shepo, and Onam. Sons of Zibian, Aiah, and Anah. Sons of Anah, Dishon. Sons of Dishon, Hamdan, Eshban, Ithran, and Sharan. The sons of Ezer, Bilhan, Zavan, and Achan. The sons of Dishan, Uz, and Aran. These are the kings who reigned in the land of Edom, before any king reigned over the people of Israel. Bala the son of Beor, the name of his city being Dinhabah. Bala died, and Jobab the sons of Zerah of Bozrah reigned in his place. Jobab died, and Husham of the land of the Temanites reigned in his place. Husham died, and Jehad the son of Bedad, who defeated Midian in the country of Moab, reigned in his place. The name of his city being Avith. Hayden died. And just one thing I want to point out too, I just noticed that's happening in the world at the moment. So in the UAE at the moment, if you're not aware, all right, this is happening in Dubai as we speak, all right, right now. Okay, so this is the flooding, okay, that's happening in Dubai as we speak. This is a plane getting basically washed away. All right, so these floods are crazy, guys. They're insane. They've been happening. I saw some better videos than this. Some really, really crazy videos that were happening. But it's happening in that area, right? It's happening in these areas of these Arab countries, like these judgments coming to these places. So it's quite intimidating, guys, that we're seeing this happen. These judgments come upon here because it shows us, these things, like they're not just a few planes going over cloud seeding. This is massive rain. They're saying cloud seeding, maybe. But either which way, God uses the enemy. So, yeah, look it up. But it's happening in the Emirates at the moment, in the UAE. So, where were we? So, Let me go again. These are the kings who reigned in the land of Edom before any king reigned over the people of Israel. Bela the son of Beor, the name of his city being Dinhabah. Bela died, and Jobab the son of Zerah of Bozrah reigned in his place. Jobab died, and Husham of the land of the Temanites reigned in his place. Husham died, and Hadad the son of Bedad, who defeated Midian in the country of Moab, reigned in his place. The name of his city being Avith. Hadad died, and Samlah of Masrekah reigned in his place. Samlah died, and Shaul of Rehoboth of the Euphrates reigned in his place. Shaul died, and Balhanan the son of Achbor reigned in his place. Balhanan died, and Hadad reigned in his place. The name of his city being Pai, and his wife's name was Mehetabel, the daughter of Matred, the daughter of Mezahab, and Hadad died. The chiefs of Edom were chiefs Timnah, Alva, Jethath, Aholam, Abah, Elah, Pinan, Kenaz, Taman, Mibzar, Magdiel, and Iram. These are the chiefs of Edom. Okay, so now we've got the line of David. These are the sons of Israel: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Joseph, Benjamin, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. The sons of Judah: Onan and Shelah. These three Bathshua the Canaanite bore to him. Now Judah's firstborn, was evil in the sight of the Lord, and he put him to death. His daughter-in-law Tamar also bore him Perez and Zerah. Judah had 5 sons in all. The sons of Perez, Hezron and Hamor. The sons of Zerah, Zimri, Ethan, Heman, Calcol, and Dara, 5 in all. The sons of Carmi, Achan, the troubler of Israel, who broke faith in the matter of the devoted thing. And Ethan's son was Azariah. Sons of Hezron that were born to him: Jeremiel, Ram, and Shelebai. Ram fathered Amminadab, and Amminadab fathered Nashon, prince of the sons of Judah. Nashon fathered Salmon. Salmon fathered Boaz. Boaz fathered Obed. So we know Boaz is a righteous man. Fathered Obed. That was their son. Obed fathered Jesse. This is David's father, Jesse. Jesse fathered Eliab, his firstborn. Abinadab the second. Shimea the third. Nathaniel the fourth. Radai the fifth. Ozem the sixth. David the seventh. And the sisters were Zariah and Abigail. The sons of Zariah: Abishai, Joab, and Asahel, 3. Abigail bore Amasa, and the father of Amasa was Jether the Ishmaelite. Caleb the son of Hezron fathered children by his wife Azubah and by Jerioth, and these were her sons, Jesher, Shobab, and Arden. When Azubah died, Caleb married Ephraim, who bore him Hur. Hur fathered Uri, and Uri fathered Bezalel. Afterward, Hezron went in to the daughter of Machir, the father of Gilead, whom he married when he was 60 years old, and she bore him Segub. And Segub fathered Jair, who had 23 cities in the land of Gilead. But Gesher and Aram took from them Havoth-Jair, Kenath and its villages, 60 towns. All these were descendants of Machir, the father of Gilead. After the death of Hezron, Caleb went in to Ephratah, the wife of Hezron his father, and she bore him Asher, the father of Tekoa. The sons of Jeremiel, the firstborn of Hezron: Ram, his firstborn Benu, Oren, Ozem, and Ahijah. Jeremiel also had another wife, whose name was Atarah. She was mother of Onam. The sons of Ram, the firstborn of Jeremiel: Mars, Jamin, and Eker. The sons of Onam: Shemai and Jada. The sons of Shemai: Nadab and Abishah. The names of Abishah's wife was Abihail, and she bore him Arban and Moled. The sons of Nadab: Seled and Apam, and Seled died childless. The sons of Apam: Ishi. The sons of Ishi: Sheshan. The sons of Sheshan: Ahalai. The sons of Jada: Shemai's brother, Jether, and Jonathan. And Jether died childless. The sons of Jonathan: Pelez and Zazah. These were the descendants of Jeremiel. Now, you need a chart for this, of course. Now, Sheshan had no sons, only daughters, but Sheshan had an Egyptian slave whose name was Jarha. So Sheshan gave his daughter in marriage to Jarha, his slave, and she bore him Attai. Attai fathered Nathan, and Nathan fathered Zabad. Zabad fathered Ephlal, and Ephlal fathered Obed. Obed fathered Jehu, and Jehu fathered Azariah. Azariah fathered Helez, and Helez fathered Elisah. Elisah fathered Sismai. Sismai fathered Shallum. Shallum fathered Jechemiah, and Jechemiah fathered Elishama. The sons of Caleb, the brothers of Jeremiel, Marashah his firstborn, who fathered Ziph, the son of Marahah, Hebron. The sons of Hebron, Korah, Tapua, Rechem, and Shema. Shema fathered Rahab, the sons of Jochrim, and Rechem fathered Shemai. The sons of Shammai, Maon, and Maon fathered Beth Zior. Ephah also, Caleb's concubine, bore Haran, Mozah, and Gazez, and Haran fathered Gazez. The sons of Jardai, Regem, Jotham, Geshan, Pele, Ephah, and Shaph. Makkah, Caleb's concubine, bore Sheba and Tehana. She also bore Shapeth, the father of Madmannah, Shava, the father of Machbenah, and the father of Gibeah, and the daughter of Caleb was Aksah. These were the descendants of Caleb. The son of Hur, the firstborn of Ephratah, Shobal, the father of Kiriath Jearim, Salma, the father of Bethlehem, and Haraph, the father of Bethgader. Shobal, the father of Kiriath Jearim, had other sons. Harrow, half of the Menuhoth. And the clans of Kiriath Jearim, the Ithrites, the Puthites, the Shumathites, and the Mishrites. From these came the Zorathites and the Eshtolites. Sons of Salma, Bethlehem, the Netophites, Astro, Beth, Joab, and half of the Manathites, the Zorites. The clans also of the scribes who lived at Japheth, the Tirathites, the Shimeathites, and the Sukathites. These are the Kenites who came from Hamath, the father of the house of Rechab. How are we going for time? All right. Well, I might take a 30-minute break, guys, and I might continue on for anyone who's willing to watch. I will start a new video. So for anyone who's currently in the video, I will start a new video just to keep it together. So look out for that in the next. I'll actually set that up now, and I'll put a timer on it so you can, if you go into the video, you can see how long until it starts again. So I realize many across the world are probably sleeping still right now, so that's fine. But I will continue on later. So God bless and Maranatha.